What if you could play most games in your collection with just a few controllers? The worst part about having multiple consoles for me has got to be having so many controllers, some which eventually start breaking down. As someone that often plays games on my PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, and other consoles, I was looking for a way to streamline my gaming setup, and I think we're onto something special here. If you'd like to use your Switch, PS4, or PS5 controller on an Xbox console, Xbox controllers on your PS4, or even a PS3, PS4, or PS5 controller wirelessly on an original PS2, you may want to stick around as I review a couple of Brook Gaming's controller converters. Hey friends, Juan here, welcome back. I'm very excited because today we'll be talking about 3 different products that really may change how you play games in your overall game setup. First, we'll be talking about the Wingman XB converter for Xbox consoles, then the XE converter for the PlayStation 4, and then it's going to be a retro throwback, and I'm using this a lot, the Super converter that converts many different devices over to the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation Classic. So if you like what I do, make sure to subscribe, hit on that bell, that's very important, otherwise YouTube kind of forgets a channel exists. And after you check all of this out, make sure to go down to the comment section and let me know what you think about these devices. And before going on any further, I do want to let everybody know that these products were provided directly from Brook for the purpose of review, but nobody's reviewing my actual opinions. 100% of this is my own. I would not talk about things I would not recommend on the channel, so rest assured, this is some good stuff. I really do gotta state that these really have changed how I play games at home. I use the XB and Super converters pretty frequently because with those, I can use my favorite controllers on most consoles, this being the Xbox One and the PS4 pad. I've been using these without applying any firmware updates, although there are a few available online. Another note is that these converters are made for connecting only one controller, so that's important to consider just in case. Starting with Xbox consoles, the Wingman XB converter lets us use PS3, PS4, PS5, Switch, and Xbox Elite controllers on the Xbox One, Xbox 360, and Series consoles. The majority can easily be used in wireless mode for convenience, but you can also choose to plug in a USB cable if you want to avoid doing any pairing. If you do want the wireless experience, the best way to make it happen is by connecting a controller via USB and pressing the home button to confirm connection. For the most part, they'll pair up immediately. Afterwards, you can simply unplug the cable and it should continue to work just fine. This process is going to be very similar with the other converters. Now, my personal use and main experience with the XB converter was to use multiple controllers on the Xbox 360, as I do love the console, but I can't say I like the controller. I wanted to use the Xbox One controller with it, so all I did was hit the pair button on the controller and then I pressed the buttons on the side of the converter. You'll notice everything will start blinking and then switch to constant light once it's been paired. Now, when talking about PlayStation controllers, it's best and easiest to just connect to the converter via USB and then unplug once connected if you want to play wireless. I did pair the Switch Pro pad with it in the same way as the PlayStation controllers and it worked just fine. But friends, the combo that I really enjoyed getting going, and this was not part of the plan, was using my 8BitDo arcade stick on the Xbox 360. This stick is only compatible with the Switch and the PC. I was able to plug in the wireless dongle onto the converter, paired it up, and it worked awesome. This was a game changer for me, as now I'm kind of tempted to get more fighting games for Xbox consoles, and using this is my go-to setup. My impressions after using this for a few hours is that I'll probably never use my Xbox 360 controller ever again. I can't be the only gamer with a few controllers in their collection that have a finicky joystick or something that's not working quite right. I'm thinking about getting one of those custom Xbox One controllers, as it's something that's going to be catered to my personality. And hey, now I'm using the Xbox One controller for the main console itself, for Xbox 360, but that's also my main pad of choice for PC gaming. Now, as far as other notes regarding my experience, I did not encounter any problems with controllers disconnecting, input latency, or anything similar. I'm not overly technical about these things, but at no point did I feel like I had to be concerned about any delay. Are you thinking about picking up one of these? Let me know, or if you have any other questions, leave those in the comments. Now switching to the Wingman XE converter, there's not too much different to say about it based on my experience. The Wingman lets you use Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Elite controllers on your PlayStation 4. All I had to do to pair my Xbox One controller to the console was plug in the converter, hit the pair button on the Xbox pad, press the buttons on the side of the converter, and wait for everything to finish blinking to assure there's a connection. You can also connect directly with a USB cable to speed up the process. Here's some gameplay of me playing Crash 4 on the PS4 with an Xbox One controller. Now I know this game is multi-platform, but I can't be the only person that grew up playing Crash games on the PS1, so this kinda still feels like a PlayStation game. Now, a key thing to consider when using Xbox controllers on a PlayStation is the button prompts on screen may be a bit confusing as you switch between X or cross and the A button and everything else. I did not encounter any problems with delay or connectivity issues. Everything connected just fine, and the console kept recognizing the controller when I turned it back on. Now the question could be, who is this converter for? This setup may be ideal if you own multiple consoles but don't want to buy more controllers for a local multiplayer. You can take a game like Crash Team Racing and use one of these for another friend. I think we've all played games with that crappy third-party controller, so something like this will be very much appreciated with any friend you play with. Of all the converters I'm talking about in this video, this is maybe the one I'd use the least, just because personally, I do like the PS4 controller. I don't have a PS5, so I could not test it with the console, but in doing some research, this will work with PS4 games on a PS5, but not the PS5 games themselves. Do keep in mind that some PS4 games use gyro controls or the touchpad, so you may encounter issues with those games if they require them. If you're a big fan of Xbox consoles and maybe you want to take that controller with you to the PS4, the XE converter may be for you. And now friends, we gotta talk about this one that just blew me away and just how easy it worked. We gotta talk about the super converter for the PS2 and the PlayStation Classic. Currently, I only have one fully functional PS2 controller, but one of the analog sticks isn't working too great with the super converter, which I'm having a hard time saying super converter. You can use a PS3, PS4, or even a PS5 controller on a PS2 as well as the PlayStation Classic. Like other converters, and I really just cannot say the word converter. You can pair directly with a USB cable or by pressing the button in its box and hitting the pairing combination on one of the controllers. For the most part, I just plugged in the USB cable and then removed it afterwards for wireless play. In just a matter of seconds, I was playing Def Jam Vendetta and other games with a PS4 controller. And this took me back because way back in the day, I actually owned the wireless Logitech gamepad for the PS2, and I love that damn thing. So this took me back to the wireless days where I would play SOCOM or WWE games with it. Like the other devices, I did not encounter any delay or connection issues. Like I mentioned before, I don't have a PS5, so I don't have a controller that I could test that with, but that has got to be an interesting combination, going all the way back to the PS2 and using a PS5 controller with it. Worth noting when looking at the box, it states that it's also compatible with the Switch and Xbox controllers, and although I was able to pair them easily, the joysticks, they wouldn't work. I looked up the firmware update notes on their website and they did not state any fixes related to that. So I don't know if it's a problem with my usage, but it's definitely something to consider. I'd never used a Switch or Xbox controller on the PS2, so I probably would have focused on promoting only the PlayStation pads with this converter. I do wish it was a bit more compact, as I do have my PS2 on a shelf and it's just kind of dangling there, but it's functional, and at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? The box for this one also includes another set of cables that's supposedly meant for the PlayStation Classic or PC. I didn't need to use that for the PS2, which is good because it's the one console that matters to me for this. And having said all of that, what do you think about the super converter? Is this something you would consider getting in the future? Let me know in the comments. And those right there were my overall impressions about these multiple converters, and hopefully you like my honest impression, this overall review here. as I mentioned, I'm not a super tech person, right? That's why I wanted to just plug these in, see if they worked or not, and talk about that specifically, because I think we've all undergone things that technically do work, but then you got to go to a website, you got to fill this in, you got to send an email, and the fact that for the most part I did not encounter any problems, I think that's pretty great. I actually have another review from a converter they have for the Nintendo Switch that's available right here on the channel, and I think it's overall just really cool that as our gaming collection grows, we can streamline things and customize it to our liking, because some people prefer a particular D-pad. Like, I love the Xbox One D-pad, but I hate the one on the Xbox 360. On the Switch, I don't like a lot of the controllers, and on the PS2, as I mentioned before, some of these eventually wear down. These are old devices, right? So in many ways, it's a different kind of video game preservation. If you were to ask me out of these three, which is my number one pick, it would definitely be the XB. The moment that I plugged this into my console, I immediately stopped using my Xbox 360 pad. I didn't think twice about ever plugging that in again. So if you watched this video and you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell. It helps out a ton. And if there's any other particular product that's kind of like this that you would like me to talk about in the future in the channel, please let me know, and stay tuned, because I am soon going to be talking about my overall gaming setup. A couple of you have made comments about some stuff that you like, so my next video is going to feature another product review as I showcase in much detail every little part of my game collection / game lounge. So up until next time, thank you for watching and supporting, and take care, everybody.